Okay. Well, looks like we're gonna have to get started. Hello, welcome back. Another week. So I was trying to wait on a delivery. Whoa, wait. I was trying to wait for a delivery to come, so we will be interrupted because it was supposed to be here for noon and nothing is here yet. So the doorbell will chime sometime during this. But if we get lucky, they'll be late. So apologies if I'm gonna have to shut this off for a sec. But there's unreliable delivery service this week. All right, we're back for another week, and yeah. So let's keep at it. I think everything is set up relatively the same. I'm at okay light. Yeah, I was talking about my kind of blown out backlighting. It'd probably be better if I oriented myself the other way, so I'm getting the natural light on me instead of coming from behind me. But that's not practical right now as far as, what would be behind me. There's not a good background, so we'll try to make that happen, and keep moving things around and experimenting. But this is what we look like for a while. But the traffic in the background is all the little tiny Japanese cars might be interesting, but yeah, maybe for the camera it's not a great it's not working well. And I think that's part of the focus problem as well is yeah, sometimes it's trying to focus behind me or balance the light behind. So we'll see what we come up with in the future. But all right. So let's just warm up and get started. I was talking about lunch boxes and school lunches earlier today. And yeah, that there's a bit of a big difference. Some schools have the hot lunch, there's a hot lunch prepared, and most of the time, and except for maybe high school, most of the time it's served into the classroom. So actual food is brought into the classroom, and everyone takes a tray and then a bowl of rice and one of everything that they're having. So it's served in the classroom, and some of the students. This is more like a maybe elementary school, junior high school thing. The students are in charge of preparing it and bringing it back and forth between the kitchen, the big pots, the food back and forth in pots and trays between the kitchen and the classroom. And it's interesting because for the flu season and things, it's a little bit dicey to have the hygiene level of a normal elementary school kids, dipping their hands in and sneezing on food and things. I think it's yeah, it's a little rough. I think a cafeteria with staff with kind of trained and gloved and everything staff. Although the kids do wear, if they're in charge of dealing with the food, they're wearing a mask and like a hair, like a what is it, like a shower cap kind of hair cover cap, and yeah, trying to I guess be as hygienic as possible, but still with young kids it's always feels a little dicey. So yeah, so that's the experience. So maybe not a lot of kids here in Japan have the experience of pushing a tray along a line and choosing things in a cafeteria. That's usually more of a high school thing. And even then, it's more kind of restaurant style. You just order something and then they just pass you everything. You're not kind of picking and choosing items. I guess it depends on the school. And there's all sorts of different levels of private schools and public schools. But yeah, it's a funny thing to think about those differences. And so we were talking about, I guess the image of for Japanese people of American school lunch is the brown paper bag lunch. And they just don't have that here. I don't even know if you can get a small brown paper bag. That's very funny, that idea, that that's such a novelty thing. I'm trying to think of where you mostly just see brown paper for crafts, and there's kind of some arts and crafts have the kind of natural or kind of rough brown craft paper for their look. This is a an odd squat little bag. I guess if this would hide that sense. Yeah, so the small brown paper bag is not such a thing here. I guess there is kind of food paper that's made of the rough unbleached brown paper, but they don't have that idea of the school lunch because they have the obento box. So for kids, obento is more kind of just like a stackable plastic Tupperware, and then of course it can be more formal. Like for the New Year's, there's more formal and very beautiful and elaborate types of bento boxes here, and then like the stainless steel ones or the lacquer ones, just for the salaryman or somebody bringing their work lunch somewhere. All right, let's try that again. But that's a yeah, that's a funny difference in kind of an image, maybe through television and movies, that's been exported as the brown paper sack lunch is the thing that everybody kind of associates, and of course then they don't know what's in that. They don't know what kind of lunch that is. So I was explaining it's a usually just a sandwich and potato chips and an apple or something, carrot sticks. But then I realized maybe I have some pretty dated information because it's been a while. I mean, I haven't had school lunches in a long time, and I don't, didn't have to pack lunches for any of my kids. It was always, they always had cafeteria lunch. So yeah, I'm wondering how much things have changed and how many kids are eating sushi or whatever for their school lunch in America. Because I know there's been a big push maybe in the last 20 years, a really big push against childhood obesity, and I know the advertising for sweet snacks and drinks and candy and things was frowned upon. There's some parents groups that put pressure on kids magazines and things to remove McDonald's ads and things like that. Actually, let's just do this straight from as advertisers, and that was the that contributed to the death of Disney Adventures. So that was my first big cartooning job, was the Level Up series that I did for Disney Adventures in 2006, 2007. And the magazine just folded because I think they lost their most lucrative, the fast food, the kids kids snacks advertising because of pressure from kids groups or from parents groups against pushing for healthier food for kids. At least that's what I heard, and I don't know. I wasn't involved in any of that, so I have no idea how true that is. But that was a sad thing. I guess it's kind of like alcohol and tobacco ads, supporting like Playboy and things. Those were the richest advertisers they could get, and the gentlemen's magazines were the only places that they could safely advertise, because it was assumed that all of the readers are adults of legal drinking age or smoking age. So there was kind of that kind of relationship. I even remember in art school in the 90s that Absolute Vodka was a big supporter of big advertiser in a lot of art magazines, sponsored a lot of events. I remember teachers talking about, or instructors talking about, oh yeah, this show or whatever was sponsored by Absolute, and so they brought the vodka and wasn't very good, but there was a sponsor, so we weren't going to say anything. But yeah, so that's always kind of been the case, and I guess just eventually that especially for kids, somebody gets involved or wants things to change, so they put an end to that. They've got no more McDonald's and candy and advertising for kids, and so then you've got no more magazine, because the financially it just doesn't work. So that was very sad, because I had just gotten started with that and was excited to be involved in the kids comics and things, and it was very short-lived. I think I just caught the tail end of it. I'm not sure. So I know at the time the two big magazines were Disney Adventures and the Nickelodeon magazine, and they were supporting a lot of kind of indie artists and people to do original work for them, so they had interesting original material. And both of those magazines were nice sources for original kids comics. I'm not sure if Nickelodeon magazine is still around or if it's changed. I think Disney is publishing has come back, but it's all Disney properties now. So I think they're kind of using it to promote their different projects. I thought I saw that there was a not the name, not Disney Adventures anymore, but some sort of Disney Comics magazine. But it's all whatever is out in the theaters, or Pirates of the Caribbean or the Pixar movies or whatever. It's all comics based on those children's properties instead of original properties. And that was a really wonderful time. The money was there, and the editors were looking for new original kids comics. So that was really really great, and I'm glad it. Even though it was the tail end of it, I'm glad I could get involved in that. It's a very fun time. All good things, as they say. So yeah, that went away just after 2 years. And I think maybe the writing was already on the wall when I gotten involved anyhow, but I wasn't, kind of privy to that information or kind of what was happening. But I think maybe they saw that coming. So that was that was sad. Quite a fun time, and when those kinds of things happen, that funding kind of lines up, that sponsorship or that kind of that advertising, that's really nice for new creative work. And I think, I mean, I don't know. And I guess it's kind of a thing that's going on. Like Netflix right now seems to be doing that. I think they realized their business model was a little bit crazy, paying millions and millions of dollars for rights for older movies, and to try to get very current stuff was insane. And so why not take that money and do original production instead of just paying fees to studios for to have the limited rights for a limited time certain properties. So now there's kind of a so that situation. Oh, sorry, microphone. That situation is I think good now for some going on for some creators. They're getting a chance to produce original work, and we're getting some great stuff. I mean, there's the Ozark and some really great original, and they did the Better Call Saul. They have a spin-off, Breaking Bad, and some really great stuff to come out of. I think that's right. I don't think that was FX. I think it was Netflix. But that's great that thing kind of happened. But something that I read that I thought was funny is that it's not like television. They're not looking at ratings and things. And so when it comes to deciding, like, who gets canceled and what, they have very exact numbers about who's watching what and when and how often, and probably demographics, well, memberships. So they have a lot of graphic information. And they were just letting a lot of series go through that probably didn't deserve a second season or even a first season, because there wasn't so much quality control. They were just kind of handing out shows to a bunch of people. So maybe they're gonna kind of tighten those reins. But it's nice. There's a real diversity of programming, something that you would never see on a single cable channel or cable network or cable channel. It could never happen on free television. There's just a lot of experimentation and looking at a lot of different audiences. So looking at women and looking at millennials, and kind of aiming things at a lot of different places, and seeing kind of what sticks or what becomes popular. So that's a nice consequence of that. And it reminds me a little bit of that the kids comic thing that was going on when there was all that McDonald's money. But that was the. I remember somebody talking about, and this was before Netflix really got into their big production, of original content. I remember people saying that we can't fight this. There was a kind of a move to force cable companies, or yeah, kind of encourage cable companies to stop bundling channels and let people kind of a la carte choose what they wanted to pay for in their cable packages. And the one thing that I read was, and you know, now we have just zero confidence in our news sources, and this was a while ago, but still, I think it was the beginning of people could write whatever they want based on nothing, based on no source, based on no facts, and just these weird opinion pieces that blogs were full of, and then that became real news. But they were talking about don't ask or don't support cable companies unbundling, because those channels that you're forced to pay for and never watch are what funds the really great original content. Wow, now that I think about it, that does seem like the industry just trying to manipulate people into thinking kind of an odd an odd system was at work. But that they're talking about kind of a golden age of television with HBO, and which is specifically subscription, but maybe not HBO, but all of the standard cable, whatever basic cable packages, FX and AMC and all that kind of Discovery and yeah, all that stuff. And Indie. I don't even know if these are still things, but they were talking about don't encourage them to unbundle, because you're paying in these packages and you're paying for things that you don't watch, but that extra money is what's funding this kind of golden age of cable television. And I think Netflix has proven that that's silly. That's a real silly way to approach things, and that how powerful that subscription streaming service can be. I mean, they must have insane overhead. They're back end and getting decent speed to stream HD and then stream 4K to people has to be crazy. But that that thinking has kind of disappeared, and that was maybe only like 5 years ago. Whenever like Breaking Bad was still on the air, I think somebody wrote a piece about that. A la carte cable will destroy this golden age of television, and I think that's not true. I think television is just moving to streaming. That's the place where things are going to that's where the golden age is going to continue, or a silver age, or whatever whatever they're thinking. Yeah, because I think even HBO is kind of getting this awareness that they that with their apps that they're doing, like HBO Go or whatever, so you don't even need a cable subscription. You can just pay for their streaming service. So they're kind of moving into that same territory as well, and they were kind of the first ones to do that great original content, Sopranos and Feet Under and that good stuff that was coming out in the 90s. So yeah, so, and with Game of Thrones coming to an end, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, and even if they can come up with the next big hit, and if that's going to help them kind of evolve into the next version of HBO, and there'll be more of a streaming service than a cable channel. But I guess there's still so much more money in cable, because so many people. That was the thing I remember about the U.S. So many people were just forced into cable. They had zero TV and antenna reception, and now there's not even free analog TV anymore. You have to have digital. Everything has to be converted to digital, and yeah, it's a very funny. Yeah, I guess I'll do the bridges on this. It was a very funny situation, and you're just stuck. And of course, all Americans know it's always a monopoly. It's one company that controls that. So everybody pays the same cable company. And I think what was that, in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, it started to diversify a little bit with the mini satellite dishes. The satellite service started to become a thing, but for a while it couldn't even seriously compete with cable because of the extra expense required. But that was a it's always been an ugly part of living in some places in America is yeah, you just cable companies have you, and I guess that's been changing. It's been so long since I've been dealing with that. People may not feel like that anymore, and they talk about all the cord cutting that's going on now because of online streaming and different devices. Things you're not tied to cable subscriptions and things, which I think is a good thing. I think that yeah, like I was saying, that piece that was talking about, oh, don't ask for a la carte cable because just send them as much money as possible and keep all this great television going. I think that sounds like an industry piece or kind of a paid opinion, because that's ridiculous. All right, so not my best lunchbox, but yeah, let me flatten that a little bit just to the right proportion. Yeah, I don't even think. I mean, I think only as novelties do they even make metal lunchboxes anymore. Yeah, I've got this all wonky. Just move this over a bit. But yeah, so those things come and go, and it's kind of interesting to watch them happen and where it's going to be next. Because a lot of people, I mean, I would definitely include myself in that. A lot of people that aren't that qualified benefited from the money that these companies had. I was so lucky to be able to work for Disney Publishing, and the peers, the other artists that were working on that same magazine doing kids comics. I mean, I felt I felt very outclassed, and I don't think that's false modesty speaking, but it was an honor to be in that same book with a lot of those artists. There's some really great stuff, and just really clever and creative kids entertainment. So that was nice to be part of, even though it was short-lived. All right. Okay, lunch boxes and bags and things. Some of this. That's a big thing. Actually, why don't we do a couple of thermos? The squishy one, yeah, that short squat one is more of the style. It fits in that third of your lunchbox, like that. Whoa, look at that, would you? Yeah, that's one thing. I like the wonkiness, the kind of lopsidedness of my drawing. I think there's some nice character to that, but I know there's a lot of artists and a lot of illustrators especially that flip their work so they don't get that weird wonkiness. So when you flip something over, when you mirror something, it's not all distorted. But yeah, with this cartoon, I especially like that. That's kind of a deliberate thing. But yeah, doing other illustration, I would definitely be flipping this to get a nice balance and a nice what's it called, symmetry and balance to the drawing, so it doesn't look strange. It's not just only doing it's only representing that angle. But I really, in this cartoon, I really like that ugliness. I mean, it may just make it look more amateur. It may maybe make the cartooning look more amateur. So that's kind of a deliberate oh, excuse me, deliberate design choice, is to make it wonky looking. It's the starkness and the kind of balance of things, I think, looks nice, and everything is a little off kilter. And still no delivery. I'm glad I didn't keep waiting. I was gonna hold off on the stream until the delivery showed up, and we wouldn't be streaming yet. And it'll be funny if I actually finish this uninterrupted, because it's that delivery window thing the company said. we either come from 12 to 4 or like 6 to 9. Yeah, so I went with the 12 to 4. And what I missed was 4:12 o'clock. So here we are. Sitting for nothing. All right. It looks. Yeah, so that I kind of like that grouping. All right. So the funny thing that I remember that I don't even know if it still exists, and I'm sure some school cafeterias have outlawed it or whatever, is the swapping things in your lunch. Things you don't like, grapes for chocolate chip cookies or whatever, so that was always as the kids traded Pokemon cards and Pogs or whatever was popular. Yeah, negotiating your lunch trades. I'm sure everyone that was good at that ended up going into investment banking or whatever, convincing people to do things with their money that they shouldn't. All right, there we go. So yeah, so we've got a little lunch configuration here. I'll think about. That's yeah. I just want to generally kind of do that as a subject because I was thinking about that so much. That conversation. So school lunches and that brown paper bag lunch. Yeah. So I guess it's very uniquely American. And the funny thing is a brown paper bag offers zero protection. So you stick that in your backpack or whatever. Odds are it's just going to get crushed. And the apple has to go on the bottom because if it goes on the top, it puts a big dent in your sandwich, and your potato chips are bashed into crumbs. So that's a brown paper. The trials and tribulations of the brown paper bag crowd. And having to write your name, having your name written on the bag, and yeah, that's a funny thing. So I wonder if that's even done anymore because it was not very practical. It was barely functional, and you basically could only use have a sack lunch if you're just carrying it separately, or keep trying to be very protected with it. I wonder if people moved towards like thermos bags with some insulated bags with some structure, or just kinds of lunch boxes. Yeah, and they stopped making metal lunch boxes too. I remember when they had all switched to plastic. I was out of school by then, but there's kind of a 20% or whatever of kids with the all plastic lunch boxes, and the metal lunch boxes just kind of disappeared as the 80s went on. So we didn't see that no more. But the metal lunch box is dented, and the paint scraped off them. So I remember having what did I even have? I remember my first lunchbox, and I actually put that in one of these domestic abuse that I kind of found the art online and did like a painted version of it. But my first lunchbox, I don't know where my mother found it, but it was a Kung Fu lunchbox from the TV series Kung Fu, and I vaguely knew, I knew that there was a television show. Vaguely knew that was a television show, and didn't really watch it because I think if I ever tried to watch it, it was too boring for a little kid, and I was like 5 years old or whatever. But my first kindergarten lunchbox was Kung Fu, and I was always envious of the Star Wars lunchboxes, and I think eventually I had one. I'm trying to think. I can just remember so many kids having them. Like there was a really cool Empire Strikes Back and the original Star Wars film lunchbox had the X-wing TIE fighter, and it was black with a red handle, metal, and had some scenes from the movies around it. I think eventually I had a Star Wars lunchbox, but I don't remember specifically what it was. I remember my first lunchbox was Kung Fu. It was pretty much meaningless to me, but I'm sure my mother got it for a song. I'm sure she was being thrifty and picked it up on clearance because lunchboxes were definitely younger crowd had lunchboxes. I don't think anybody in high school carried a lunchbox until it became kind of an ironic thing, or girls started using them for purses in the 90s or whatever. But yeah, so I think that was probably a pretty unpopular choice. And I always remember the illustrations, the kind of painted, maybe just acrylic illustration, painting illustrations of the movie property or whatever on the lunchboxes were always a little off. They were always kind of strange, so it looked like they had some stills from the film or the television show and just had someone do paintings of them so that they would own that artwork. They weren't licensing photos or whatever, but it was always a little off and always a little rough looking. I remember some of the wonky faces and poses and expressions and things. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think there was a lot of original. It seemed to be a lot of paintings of screenshots, like frames of TV shows or movies. Yeah, well, metal lunchboxes. What do you know? So, where are we going here? So I'll just keep things here while I'm thinking. But yeah, I really wonder what the situation now with the bringing your lunch to school, because I don't remember ever having to pack a lunch for kids in the late 90s and 2000s. And in Japan, it varies. I mean, sometimes my youngest daughter, will need a bento lunch for a school trip or something, or like a half day. Like there'll be no lunch served on a half day, but it goes to 1 o'clock or something, whatever. So there's a lunch hour. They need so sometimes some special things. She'll need that, but yeah, it's not very common. Yeah, that was the other thing. So Japan has become kind of, and I experienced that a little bit. I was teaching in the public junior high school for a little while, and I did some visits to classes in elementary as well. So I got to experience the odd levels of lunch, especially for public schools, and the there were a few pretty brutal things that they served the kids, and of course I think it's the blackfish, whatever the no, that's the SeaWorld thing. Blood Cove. What's but the film, the documentary that was made about the kind of dolphin massacres that happened in Japan at some specific cove, and that the meat then was sold to public schools for lunches, so kids were eating the kind of fatty, tough dolphin meat, but it was kind of justification for those fish massacres. And I think that was only done to, I can't remember, just kind of protecting the fishing industry. So they were just rounding up and massacring these dolphins because they were getting stuck in their nets or eating their fish or whatever. So they were protecting their fishing industry. But yeah, gruesome film, gruesome footage. But I remember that detail, that they sold the meat to public schools. So I know whale and dolphin and stuff can show up in school lunches because there's all kinds of shady negotiations between probably the Board of Education and some shady fishing company, or maybe it's just the actual companies that provide the lunches, and they source their food wherever they want. But yeah, there was a miserable. I'll draw it here. I'm not going to use this for the cartoon, but it was this kind of thing. It was a fish cake, and it was a disc like this. Oh, this is funny. If I'm going to tell stories and draw what I'm talking about, that'll be bizarre. But it was a fish cake like this, and it had these kind of weird, these weird lines on top, so it was pressed and kind of given a texture. And the color was a gray. The fish cake itself was this. What's going on? Where do I want to be here? I guess here. Yeah. The fish cake itself was a, yeah, very cool gray. Actually, no, it was probably a little bit fleshier like that. This weird color gray like this. So this is a talking draw. This is literally a talking draw. So it was a fish cake thing like this in soup. Like, so there was a, I don't think there was ramen or anything, but it was a bowl of soup, and in it were these fish cakes and probably some cabbage or some veggies or something. And the cake itself had a little bit of kind of a variation. Like there were, like, these kind of colors, and it was a fish cake, probably the equivalent of a hot dog, like an American hot dog, where they took whatever was left, what they were cleaning fish for fish fillets, so skin and whatever is like digestible. But they also took bone and they ground it up into these cakes. But fish bone, of course, is like needles. It's very long, and so it wasn't ground finely. It wasn't a powder. So they just kind of crushed these bones, these fish bones, and put them in these cakes. So they're just kind of, it's the kind of the consistency of a hot dog, maybe a little bit, a little bit more fish cake, because they're kind of boiled, so it's more, I don't know what you would compare it to. American diet, I guess the closest thing would be a hot dog, or almost, wow, yeah, I don't know what's it, but if you're familiar with a fish cake, that's kind of what it is. It's kind of, ground up and cooked, boiled into this consistency. But there were bones in it, and I guess the idea was it was, helping kids with their calcium, giving them strong bones instead of, if they didn't drink milk, it was helping them with their calcium. So these things looked like this, that you would just find floating in your soup, and so you chew them, and yeah, okay, it's a fish cake. It's a little rough. It's not have great flavor, kind of flavorless. But then you would hit these pieces of bone, so you'd almost have to chew them like in a certain direction. Like if anything got oriented the wrong way in your mouth, you wouldn't be chewing the bone. The bone would just be piercing your soft palate or your tongue or whatever. So I remember that was really unpleasant, and I was always wondering about the how ethical, or how, like, that's a very odd way to deal with like fish remains, and it's just different. I mean, it's different thinking and different culture, of course. Um, so the way that they, trying to get things into kids' diets and stuff. But these fish cakes, woof, they were miserable, and just like, you could get through one, and like, oh, okay, I didn't hit anything in there, and you'd hit another one, you'd get a bone, shut right into the top of your mouth, or stuck between your teeth, real painful. Like, you just like, it was like eating, a ground beef patty, like a real cheap, low level ground beef patty with a lot of, breading or, filler in it, and then occasionally hitting like a staple, or part of a pin or a thumbtack or something. It was just really, really disconcerting. So yeah, I have yeah, very not fond memories of trying to eat uh, those cheap public school fish cakes. I mean, there's a lot of different types of fish cakes in Japan, and so not all of them are inedible like that. But yeah, that was miserable. So that really made me think about, there must be like a level of public school food and things. And there was even something I saw that prisoners in Japan, the quality of their food is actually better. Oh, this might be my delivery. Just a second. Yep, be right back. Sorry about that. I knew that was going to happen, and it did, but yeah, couldn't get away without doing that. So right in the middle of my fake story, and I lost my stylus. Oh god. All right, hold on a minute. Sorry about that. Yeah, I carried my stylus over to the door, and because I couldn't sign with it, I set it down so I didn't have it. All right. So, oh, fish cakes. Yeah, so there are good types of fish cakes in Japan, and mostly like kind of kids food. There's a lot of like snack, very white kind of snack sticks. So they're like a little bit more um, have a consistency almost like a cheese stick, like a string cheese sticker, but a little bit easy, softer, easier to chew. But they have the fish stick snacks, fish cake sticks for kids in Japan. But these, if you see anything that looks like this, stay away. Take it out of your soup. Yeah, that was just brutal. But fish bones is a thing here. It took me some time because I, grew up in the Midwest, so seafood was limited to frozen fish sticks, I think, and the occasional piece of fish at a restaurant. But yeah, so coming to Japan, it didn't grow up with dealing with fish bones, and so that is a whole thing. Because some bones you can chew, they're pretty harmless, and some bones will just, tear you up or stick in your throat, and yeah, go to the hospital. So there's all kinds of variations of that. And Japanese people are, I guess it just varies from person to person, but you don't get a lot of instruction or advice about how to do things because I guess they are so accustomed to, learning from childhood how to eat certain things that when they have someone that's not accustomed or doesn't know how to chew or approach or which parts of something they can eat, they're not used to kind of like thinking as if they're dealing with a child because they're looking at an adult, so they don't give you like advice that the parent would give a kid about how to eat certain things. So that's always kind of funny. They're always just assuming, oh, you can deal with this. And so I've had some very interesting struggles with certain seafood, not knowing, are these bones chewable, or is this thing just riddled with needle-like bones and it's going to take, basically an hour to eat a small fillet because there's so many bones in that piece of fish. Yeah, so it's interesting. It just kind of varies. But yeah, fish bones are a thing, and so when I found a fish cake that contained ground bones and not finely ground, just kind of chunky pieces of fish bone, that was terrible. Yeah, so usually you'll run into something like that. So you do a lot of this, pulling bones out of your mouth when you're eating. So that's a little bit unsightly. People are eating just constantly picking pieces of bone out of their mouth. But that's a thing. Yeah, so it takes a little bit of learning, but it's amazing. I mean, the variety and the way they prepare fish in Japan is just incredible. Yeah, I've had just many amazing, like, all seafood meals, and growing up that was something that I had almost zero exposure to. It was frozen white fish sticks. Yeah, I remember a Catholic classmate, having the fish on Friday, and that was the thing too, is the baking of fish. Like, I don't know what kind of fish they were serving, flounder or some kind of white fish, some very flat white fish, but baking a fish in the oven and just reeking up the entire house, just making everything stink. I remember her jacket smelled like baked oven fish. Very strange. Yeah, so not growing up Catholic, I was surprised. That was, yeah, so I guess there's a lot more people, depending on your religion, there's a lot more people with access to or experience with seafood because fish on Fridays. But yeah, I always thought that was horrible, horrible way to cook fish, bake it so that it smelled as fishy and terrible as possible, and that smell was spread all over your house and got into your clothes and everything else. Uh, but yeah, so oh, there we go. This that little service bell, little gradual shape. There we go. Yeah, so the school lunch is, yeah, it's quite different. Oh, okay. And the thing before the doorbell, the thing that I was thinking about is I remember reading, going back to the school lunches in Japan, there was an article that showed the typical school lunch, you know, kind of an average school lunch in Japan, and the quality of it, and how much there was, and everything. And that's, you know, something that you know, either the school paid for with your tax money, or if it's a private school, you know, came directly out of your pocket. And then they showed the food that prisoners in Japan were served, and it's a, you know, it's a cafeteria lunch, but it's gorgeous. The grilled fish was just perfect and exquisite, and so it was a, you know, very, being very critical of why are we, you know, serving our murderers and rapists, you know, so much better food than we're serving our, you know, the future of the country, the kids. And so, you know, a lot of that probably has to do with dirty deals that were made between the, you know, people providing the food for schools and the, you know, the school boards and things. There's all kinds of shady stuff that happens here in that way, and very quietly. So that's a little, you know, mysterious in some ways, is how could that kind of thing happen? But yeah, there's always a good reason. Yeah, that was the one thing that I read, uh, that I'm not sure, you know, I don't, the source, I'm not sure how valid the source was, but an interesting kind of cultural comparison that I saw about gift giving in Japan. And you don't open gifts in front of the person that gives it to you. You accept the gift and then take it, you know, open it, look at it away from them. And that's kind of the custom. And but, you know, in America, gift giving, you know, you want the person to open it in front of you and have a reaction to it and say, "Do you like it?" And, you know, it's about you know, getting that positive feedback of, "Oh, see, I know you. I knew you would like this color, or, you know, this thing, or this music, or whatever." And that doesn't exist as much in Japan. I think, you know, maybe this is just a generalization, and this is like an older etiquette. But you take a gift, thank you very much, and you just put it away, and you open it later out of the giver's sight. And the thing that I read about that said that this kind of reinforced the bribery culture in Japan, as kind of passing money. So if you give a gift to your, you know, your kid's teacher, and they don't open it, and then later they open it and they see there's some chocolates or something, and then underneath there's a bunch of money. So it's a way to kind of force bribes on people, and ensure certain things. So you would give a gift and have the, you know, hide some valuable item or something in there, because they don't know what it is. Maybe they're just assuming it's some food or some souvenir or something, or just a very, you know, inexpensive thank you gift. But in fact, that's where you can hide your, you know, I want my kid to, you know, pass that. I know he's had some trouble in school. I want him to pass this year. And so the implication of those kinds of hidden things is, you know, getting what you want without having to argue, without the person that you're giving the bribe, that you're bribing, that you're giving the bribe to, doesn't have the opportunity to refuse it. You don't know if they're going to, you know, follow through with it, but they know that, you know that they've accepted that, and they have seen that. So if they accept that money and don't do anything about it. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic, and I'm not sure how true that is, but I think that's an interesting thing, that not opening a gift and encourage or enable, or kind of support that ability to yeah, bribe people in a very kind of covert way, so you don't know what's actually being passed in those little gifts. And and Japan has a lot of gift culture, especially business wise. There's times of year, 2 times a year, where business to business exchange gifts and things. And I think I touched on that before. But yeah, a lot of small gifts are exchanged very often. So yeah, in that can be hidden a lot. There can be a lot of influence peddling, not peddling, influence buying, influence shopping. A lot of you can buy favors and things in that way, and nobody sees it. It's very invisible. So I thought that was interesting. And I don't know if that's just Asia in general, because I remember it's been a few Korean prime ministers, and that's the interesting or presidents, I guess presidents. The interesting thing about the president is, after your term is over and your legal protection is over, you usually just go straight to jail because there's been so much bribery and corruption that's been going on, and you have the protection of not being able to be prosecuted for that while you're in office. And as soon as you're out of office, all bets are off, and you go from their equivalent of the White House straight to your jail cell. So that's crazy. But it just, I may have to do with just, it's just the price part of doing business. It's just that's happening. And if it's done in that kind of covert way, and you have no ability to refuse it, then yeah, of course those kinds of things must happen. And yeah, so that's pretty interesting. Yeah, an interesting cultural difference that I noticed. And I just remember reading about that, about how the gift giving culture, the gift giving etiquette help to enable that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm not having a lot of ideas for this second part here. Got school lunches, and that bell is a little wonky. Oh, yeah, I think that's fixable. To redraw it, the lines are kind of flat. Crazy about line work. Yeah. Try that one more time. Yeah, more like that. But it is. Something. To see, but oh yeah, that's better too. I'll keep trying. I will. Yeah, that I'm not sure. I might need a restart on the computer. The pressure sensitivity is a little strange with the stylus, so maybe I need to reset things. Memory issues. Maybe it's just my cold hands. It's so cold today. Maybe I'm losing my losing feeling. There we go. Like that. Sorry. Uh, all right. So I need to keep with the talking. Yeah, I don't know if I like this one necessarily much better, but there's 2 versions. So keep going. All right. Hey. So, yes, I think I'm already losing my energy and I haven't gotten close to finishing anything yet. Oh, as far as creative topics, yeah, there's nothing that's kind of been on my mind or kind of my head about any of that. Let's put some color on this while I'm thinking about the other piece. But the other, yeah, so creatively, hmm. I was thinking recently about how, about inspiration and how hard that is to kind of ambulance, about how hard that is to kind of harness that creative time, to take advantage, and especially when you're not working creatively full time. I mean, then it's more of a challenge. I mean, something that you have to just kind of constantly address. But I mean, so inspiration in those kind of like, manic, kind of like when everything is just working perfectly and things are just kind of pouring out of you, taking advantage of that time and really being able to produce, be productive during that is very important. And I think I talked before about, like, tricking yourself or being able to push yourself to produce or have ideas when they're not really there, and the difficulty of having to kind of force that, and how I can just remember, trying to come up with ideas and kind of staring blankly at a screen, just trying to do things, or just kind of like, slowly putting something together, and really how when you're not really in that mode, when things aren't really humming, how just torture it is to get things out and to kind of get something down, and kind of communicate, or kind of come up with anything, even in the general area of what you wanted to say or what you wanted to do. uh yeah, how difficult that is. And that's the real trick, is to kind of keep yourself inspired and kind of manage that inspiration. And the frustrating part, I mean, not necessarily the inspiration of the new idea, but that, getting into that creative mode, how you have to kind of trick yourself, convince yourself, come up with like a placebo or a ritual or something that kind of tricks you into thinking, okay, now I'm in creative mode, now things are really coming out. So convincing yourself that this cup of tea or whatever has that property, or I used to rely a lot on coffee, so just get over caffeinated to try to get into that creative mode, and sometimes that really backfires on you. It's very easy to kind of OD on caffeine and then just be jittery and anxious, and kind of hypersensitive, irritable. Yeah, kind of irritable, and that's a real miserable state to be stuck in when you're trying to do work. That was always an art school trick, is I would just have a bunch of coffee, and sometimes that my nerves would get so frazzled that I wouldn't be able to get anything done, really. And that was always very frustrating. You kind of have this threshold where after that point you're not going to be very useful. So I remember that feeling very much. But you're always trying to to trick yourself into not creativity but productivity, to being productive, of coming up with just letting the ideas kind of flow. That's always a tricky thing to balance, is because your inspiration, like the ideas, where ideas and things come from, always come at unreliable times. So you'll get strange, crazy inspiration at times when you have to really be strict with yourself about writing things down and trying to remember things, because when that inspiration strikes, you have to kind of be willing to be willing to take advantage of it, and and know that you're not just, oh, I'll remember that for later. That's just not going to happen. So that's an interesting thing to have to deal with. Always be in a position where you can take advantage of your wonderful ideas, because you never know when it's just not going to come out of you again. Oh, where was this? Here. So that's that's an interesting thing to remember, kind of be aware of, is the is finding ways to kind of get yourself in the mood or get yourself motivated. And I'm sure there's a bunch of different ways to say that. I don't think green is there. Red might be better color for that. Let's try, or purple. That'll work. That's something you really have to focus on, and I think it varies from individual to individual, like what kind of can keep you motivated or what kind of helps you get focused and get in that really productive mode. Because when you're not, it's just like pulling your teeth out. It really is slow and painful and a hard process when you're just not in the groove or whatever. I can't think of a good way to say that, but kind of in productive mode where things are making sense and everything is kind of coming together. So that's a trick to manage that and be able to dedicate, be able to take advantage of those times and get enough work done during that time. You're looking like alien ruins here. Yeah, so it's tricky. It's a real hard thing to stay on top of, but it's important as far as being able to enjoy, because that's when things get really unenjoyable. That's when things get miserable, when you can't be in that headspace where kind of coming out, making it really easy to keep adding to, kind of getting in that zone is important, and learning how you do that, like how it comes out of you and how you can reliably get yourself into that place to really be able to work on your ideas and just kind of stay inspired by that original creative burst. That's a important trick to be aware of. Yeah, so everyone has their different sources of inspiration, or maybe kind of different rituals to kind of get them creatively going, but maintaining that feeling, kind of that little bit euphoria, or a little bit that enthusiasm for that original idea. That's a trick. I mean, that's a real hard thing to do, but it's really important. Oh yeah, right. Don't worry about that. It's important because that really makes a difference between something feeling good as it's coming out and something just being miserable. And so then that also kind of feeds a little bit into the editing and revising process. That can make things particularly hard when you are in a very positive state, in a very positive mood, very positive condition, where you're creating something and it felt good, and then you have to go back to that piece, go back to that work, and follow some ridiculous notes, and try to read minds and figure out what the person is expecting, what the person wants, or how to translate what they said as far as the changes that they wanted and what that actually means. Because so many times clients have zero creative vocabulary, or really, I don't know what I want, but I don't like this, and I don't want this, and I want something else. I want something different, and that can be maddening to do that. And I still remember a recent a recent client. Things were going good for a while, and he would say, I can't believe, just like, you just read my mind. We've got this synergy, this you just understand exactly what I want. And that always terrifies me when a client, somebody you're working for, says that, um, because that means, one of these days you're going to disappoint them, and they're just going to be totally, you know flustered. They're just going to lose all their faith in you, because they've operated on this assumption that you've got this magic power, and you've been reading their mind this whole time and coming up with these amazing things that are just exactly what they wanted. And that always goes wrong. That's so terrifying when someone is saying that, because you're just waiting for the day where that's not true at all, and what happened to you, and what's wrong with you. And yeah, that can be pretty punishing to your kind of confidence and your ego, depending on how involved you are, what you're doing. But that can really, yeah, difficult to get through, because they were being very dishonest. They were saying you're fine. They're probably just giving them something beyond what they could have imagined themselves, and so that was very satisfying. And so there's a lot of ego too. I mean, I don't know if I want to get into. I want to talk about creative process and inspiration, not so much about client management or whatever, but there is a lot of ego involved. When you're dealing with a decision maker at a company. And the frustrating thing is, they have a creative ego kind of involved in the work as well. So they're making decisions. They're not doing any of the work, but they're making the decisions. And they kind of have something at stake with, the changes and what things look like. And that's just crazy. That's really hard to, that's really hard to deal with, because you've already got kind of your ego involved in things, and when things go well, it feels very good that you're satisfying the client. But then when they get involved with their, well, I'm in charge of this project, and this is not what I thought things were going to look like, or not what I thought I wanted things to be, that's really hard to manage. And you have to be really careful and very clear, with those, I don't know, boundaries, or those kind of, keeping the terms and everything clear about what you're doing. But that's not always possible. That's not always easy. I mean, there's some, very unreasonable people out there, and you're just going to have to, abandon those clients that are going to give you so much grief that it's just not going to make it worth doing. That's hard when you need to eat. That's a hard thing to do, is let that kind of thing go. Yeah, I had a kind of a long-term client that I hung up way too long with, and yeah, the end, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would have been, but yeah, it was just miserable when I wasn't reading minds anymore, and when things were just getting very unrealistic. That was hard to watch that fall apart, but it's just something you have to deal with. And I guess in that situation too, the thing that I was happy that didn't happen, that's happened before, that I'm sure it's happened to everybody kind of doing any kind of creative work, is you get very suspicious about, like, motives, reasons for certain opinions. And everything was fine, and then suddenly everything is terrible because they don't want to pay you, and it comes down to, like a budget disappears, or they've been messing around too long and they need something done fast, and there's no more money to get, to pay for the changes of things that you've already done. So then you get that fake, indignant, this is terrible. I don't like any of this, kind of thing that you have to sort out. And that's the worst. I mean, that is absolutely the worst. That's only happened a couple of times, and I've kind of felt the economic motives of that. But that's something to definitely always be aware of is, if your ego is very involved in your work, and then a client pulls something like that, just, be able to shrug that off, or be able to deal with that and know that it's not personal, and it probably is a business decision based on some bad money management, some bad budgeting, or just like, kind of a change of management, or control in a situation, and they're just trying to turn the whole thing on you because they want to get everything finished for, as cheap as possible. Yeah, that's a real frustrating situation to deal with, and thank goodness I've only had that, a couple of times ever, because it really beats you up. It really makes you question, am I okay? Because that's the thing I think a lot of people, and maybe more so performers, have to deal with, is that I'm no good, I'm a fraud, I can't do what they want, I can't be what these people want. So when you're working for somebody or trying to produce for a certain situation, that can get very disheartening, very difficult to lose your confidence because of some ulterior motive, something that's not necessarily true about what's going on. And yeah, that can be very frustrating, and also very hard to overcome, hard to deal with those kinds of. Take a look at what are all these other layers, because not doing well as far as coming up with or objects. See if there's any inspiration in here. Oh, there's the fish cake. But that's something to be aware of, and you have to be in most professional situations. You have to have a tough skin. You have to kind of build up your tolerance to bad personalities and bad opinions, and people just trying to be passive aggressive or insulting just for the sake of it, because that satisfies something in them. Their control, they got power over you that they realized. It's very hard. It's hard to deal with, and that goes beyond creative work. I mean, just dealing with unpleasant people and difficult bosses and things. But that's always something to be aware of. Is think about people's motives for what they're saying and what they're doing, and it's not necessarily you're not good or you're doing something wrong. It's there's other forces at work. So yeah, keep that in mind always, to not take it personally. And that's hard because you put a lot of yourself creatively. You put a lot of yourself into creative work, or you usually do, if you're very good at it. Yeah, you put yourself in there. And so when someone's saying it's not good, that means you're not good, and that's a hard thing, kind of find a place for what that actually means. And a lot of the times it means nothing. It has nothing to do with you. It's just a situation that they're handling by being insulting, to see if that gives them some leeway on the price or the deadline or whatever. And just always be aware of that. Yeah, people have terrible motives, and sometimes in business they'll do shady things, unscrupulous things to get what they want or to get a better price, and you just have to be ready for that and be willing to to walk away from something, especially if it's 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 not going to be a long-term thing, or this isn't an industry or a company or group of people, or you're not going to be working with these same people or people that they know a lot. I think it's probably better just to walk away, like leave on decent terms, and once things have gotten uncomfortable, if out of control, where it's feeling personal, it's probably a good idea to just okay, that's enough of this, because you gotta think of the not only your time but kind of the stress, the level of stress that you're willing to put up with for certain, yeah, certain things. That's a hard thing to balance. And of course, everybody's thresholds are a little bit different as far as they handle stress and personal insult and difficult people. A lot of people have yeah, different tolerances. So figuring out what yours are is a real healthy thing to kind of keep you happy in your professional life. Oh, no bell. Hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think where to go with this. Yeah, let's see. I got packages on the brain because I just had a big package delivered. So uh there. Guess let's do some more mail or something. Try to find something to context to put these in. I remember an email from one of my favorite fans of my cartoon. She ordered some of my little mini books once upon a time when I was selling selling those from my website, and I just went to the post office and got one of the padded envelopes, and kind of assuming that like inside was just like a layer of bubble sheet or bubble wrap, and actually it's like a fiber filled envelope. So I had no idea what I was dealing with. So I sent her, I sealed it up and I put everything she had purchased inside and sealed it up, and then the recommended way to open it is like a rip board, kind of a strip that you tear across. But what that does is it breaks between the two layers of paper and the filler, and inside the envelope is just you know recycled paper shreds or whatever. So the email she got, thank you, I received the order, opened it, and you covered my couch with like pretty little bits of paper and whatever they used for those filled uh, envelopes, and that made me so sad. I was much more careful in the future. So uh, yeah, you want somebody to have a happy experience, buying something directly from you, because that's the best kind of relationship. And I ruined her sofa with whatever the fiber-filled garbage envelope I got at the post office was. That was very embarrassing. So that's an old memory. So funky looking envelope. But yeah, that's what you got to be careful of. You kind of can't trust that post office too much. You never know what they consider normal or acceptable as far as the packaging material. That was very strange, surprising. There we go. I don't think that's. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, that works. I like that. Wow, packages. I think I've done way too many package. Yeah, there's so much shipping and courier, things in Japan. And the funny thing is, well, I guess in America too, because Amazon has like warehouses. But yeah, Japan has the order in the morning, it comes at night. Kind of delivery hours, delivery time. That's crazy. A lot of things. That feels ridiculous and seems to be unsupportable. I mean, I remember reading something that the Japanese delivery services, and this is true in America too, are complaining because Amazon was really taking advantage. They had some favorable pricing deals or whatever, but they're really taking advantage of what they were paying for, and but the amount of service that they were getting. These companies was really burdening the individual employees and the people that were doing the actual deliveries. And the problem in Japan is if nobody's home, they have to re-deliver. So basically, they're doing double and sometimes even triple labor for one delivery. So they're getting that price for the shipping, but then that package stays in the car and they're re-delivering it multiple times, and so that makes the day very busy for the employees of those courier and delivery services. So they're saying that that's not sustainable, that they're really getting frustrated with that, and it's hurting the quality of the employees. It's wearing out a lot of good employees, and they're kind of burning out and giving up doing that job. So yeah, it's not an easy job, and we're in that. That was the biggest barrier, I think, that online shopping was really working against, is that delayed uh, gratitude. What is the gratification of I'm shopping. I want that happy feeling from buying something. Oh, I have to wait a week. Oh, okay. Well, then that odd thing, that delayed gratification. Yeah, I guess delayed gratification of online shopping, and they've been trying to figure out a way around that for so long, and taking advantage of the delivery services, I guess, is what they came up with, and to make that happen. All right, so around here. Yeah, my is are not flowing. Yeah, that's what I've been feeling the past few kind of live streaming sessions, is kind of forcing stuff, because it's hard to that balance of wanting to talk and kind of have things be more lively and interesting. It's hard to keep the inspiration going. Line things up like that. That's a thing I keep doing recently. I guess it's okay. Kind of the organized look. Right. Maybe kind of one more object. Oh, let's see. I am off the microphone. Yeah, one more kind of object to come up with my snobby male idea here. So, yeah, what's a ridiculous thing that could be sent in the mail? Or just a pretty damaged looking box. I guess that's how we'll go. Yeah, maybe just a small, pretty little box with some frayed corners. Damage will work as our not first class. Dent on this side. That'll work. And do that guy. Yeah, there we go. I hope. I thought small would be nice, but maybe that's not going to be as noticeable. Oh, that'll be okay. Work. Up a corner. There we go. All right, so we'll have snobby packages. Oh, that's right. I colored the other side, so I may as coloring over here. Okay. Odd yellow. A little more desaturated. Brownish. Ah, that's not right. Maybe warm it up a little bit. Somewhere. Yeah, that's better. Brighter is better than that. Weird. Yeah, sometimes that's a thing that you have to be careful of with four color printing. The CMYK is yellow can go green easily, and you want to warm up your yellows a little bit. Make sure things don't slide that green scale, and it's hard to tell sometimes when you're seeing things on a monitor and they're contrasting each other, but sometimes things can get real green. You're trying to make them look golden, kind of brown color, like a light goldy brown color. You can get a very green, odd, dirty green looking. Pay attention to that. Yeah, that's always tricky too, is to get a nice variety of colors of brown. When you see a bunch of brown boxes, cardboard boxes together, there is so much color variation, but to have it be interesting is not always easy. Yeah, maybe that does need to be a little more saturated. Yeah, something like that. What color is this? I already did yellow. Saturated. That? Sure, yeah, that looks. And then the brown, you want to that tape color, that ugly packing tape color. That's, yeah, is that nice? Oh. Nope. Is it? Oh yeah, no, I think unclosed. Oh, I thought I. Oh no. Yeah, I'm still in that box layer. Nice. All right. See, many people constantly yelling at me on the chat. Pay attention. That so often. Working away on the wrong layer. There we go. Okay. Let's go back in. Color. Still. I think that's right. Yeah, and as pretty as possible. So let's do some tags. Not bright yellow, but slightly off. Address labels and something. And this one probably white. That'll look nice on the. Yeah, I think that. All right. Yeah, the momentum. Doing the streaming is very funny. At the beginning, I'm all full of things to say, and then very quickly that goes away. All right. All right, so remember, I'm doing a big push to try to get this cartoon back to a daily original idea. So please, yeah, please consider help making that possible, supporting the cartoon if you enjoy reading it. So the Patreon at abusecartoon.com is what I'm going to use to try to get back to daily schedule. And so that means, you know, a lot more streaming sessions and just basically a lot more content. So something daily to read. If that's, you know, if you really enjoyed that and missed that part of this, yeah, please help make that a thing. That's the ambition. That's kind of, you know, where I want to be back to doing this. Yeah, with a Patreon support, that'll definitely make that happen. Be a what's going on? Oh, it's there. Yeah, make that possible. Oh, okay, let's just do. Okay, back to here. Yeah, that's a really. I guess that, you know, when I was talking about those kind of golden ages of things like the kids comics that were happening in the early 2000s and things like that. I mean, that's definitely what the you know, what Patreon is doing now, is creating a kind of direct connection, people creating things that you enjoy and allowing you to support them directly. A couple of, you know, podcasts that I follow on Patreon or support on Patreon, and that's a really great way to make sure that those stick around, you know, so they're not vulnerable to those kind of, you know, bad business decisions or, you know, changes in the market. You know, if you like something and you support it, you know, directly with a little bit, that ensures it's going to be around. You know, you're not suddenly going to hear, oh, they canceled that, you know, podcast, they let those people go or whatever. You know, it's nice to things to free themselves from that kind of corporate mishandling, which happens a lot, and it's so frustrating to lose something that was, you know, really enjoyable entertainment, or something that you know, kind of relied on in your daily routine, just because some idiot in management, you know, made some decision about what they thought, you know, how they were going to save some money, or what they thought people should be doing. And yeah, so that is, I mean, that's a, I'm not sure, I hope it's got a longer life, and it really should, if the, you know, people running those you know, Patreon and those sorts of things really pay attention and really realize what a valuable, you know, resource that's become, and it's made certain types of entertainment and certain things viable that nobody ever excuse me, that nobody ever would have been able to support before. I think that's it's a great thing, and I think it's nice that that exists, and, you know, I hope it exists as long as possible. Yeah, okay. Oh, and I think the other thing, I want to just kind of dirty up this box to get even less, more undesirable, something like. Oh yes, and none of that tape is. All right, and then try to multiply. Yeah, so that. Okay, yeah, I think that works. Yapping at you again. All right, here we go. Where are we? Oh yeah, that's right. I went really small for that writing. Okay. Oh, actually, I need to check kind of the scale of things. Oh, yeah, everything could be a little bit bigger, huh? Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, it's a nice thing about working such a high resolution. It's not quite as flexible as vector artwork, but you really can scale things without having to worry. You don't want to scale something up and then go back down, because you'll create a lot of weird anti-aliasing stuff. But yeah, but it's nice to have the flexibility. This is such high resolution that I can actually zoom in a little bit, and you're not going to notice any difference. And especially it gets when it's reduced down to a web comic, resolution and dimensions. Most of this work I'm doing, you don't even see. It's not until things get printed in compilations and stuff that you can really see, how much the colors and little details and things. The webcomic just kind of crushes that all down. But yeah, so that's what makes it worth seeing things in print and buying printed collections of these cartoons, is that, yeah, you'll see a much different version, a much more vibrant, subtle version than what's displayed in the web browser. Yeah, I think that works. Ugh, take this much. There we go. All right. So let's see how it looks now. Yeah, that's perfect. Our sad little box here, which, oh, well, that was good. That works. Murky, sad friend. All right. Okay. Touch. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Oh, there we go. Ugh. Okay, so let's just write some jokes. So the brilliant concept here is, get my keyboard a little bit more in the way, is felt one of them not to be first. Should not have been, should not have been. Ah, there we go. I felt one of them should. That's clumsy. That's something about first class mail. Got a mood and first class. Then let's go back to lunch. Oh. Eyes over here. I'm not talking at all. Sorry, I'm just putting eyes on things. That'll be exciting. All right. Sorry about that. There we go. Oh. The lunch room. I want to talk about the exchange rate of yeah, apple slices to potato chips. Yeah, talk out loud. Yeah, I gotta keep talking through these ideas. Sorry, a little more interesting while it's being written. You can hear the thought process, and when I'm just thinking it, you're not hearing it. Doing that. Uh, uh, was shaken by the sudden. This is a long one. Fluctuation. The exchange. This is not gonna work. Right between. Oh. Uh. Oh, that's a paragraph. That's a novel. Jeez. I guess it kind of fits. The lunchroom was shaken by the sudden fluctuation in the exchange rate between apples. It's got to be something funnier than apples to potato chips, but that's kind of the idea. Uh, maybe just. I like the lunchroom is shaken. It's kind of funny, but maybe just everyone felt the sudden fluctuation. Uh, lunchroom was shaken. Oh, dramatic. All right. Back to this first class idea. They felt one of them should not have been marked. Should not have been marked first class. Oh. All of them suspected? Oh, I'm a little tiny falling away from the camera here. All right, let's do this. But one of them should not have been marked first class. Ooh. Hmm. They felt that one of them, they felt that one of them, marked first class. All right. Well, I'm going into erasing mode while I'm thinking. Oh, and maybe even. Oh yeah. those edges a little bit more. Yeah. Brightness. That works well. No. Oh yeah, apologies last week for I turned my microphone off, but I guess it defaulted to uh the webcam microphone, and then instantly just started playing whatever was on my YouTube. So you guys were hearing some 80s David Bowie at the end of that. I think I cleaned that up. I cut that off, or trimmed it, hopefully, because I didn't get a copyright strike or anything on YouTube. So I trimmed that off before I sent that to YouTube. But if you're listening to this archived on Twitch, you're going to get a little David Bowie at the end there. And I don't know what the Twitch's policy is with that, but yeah, nothing so far. But yeah, sorry about that. I tried to cut that off. I just wasn't paying attention. So when I pull one source microphone, the other one kind of clicks on, and then you were hearing me sigh, my sigh of relief as I was finished streaming, and then the music kicked in. So yeah, sorry about that. That was been a little loud on your end. Okay. One of them should not have been marked first class. I think that's a out of the group. Right. All right, I think that works. And maybe I'll capitalize first class, because first class male is the not have been. Or let me just double check. Not proper name, but if it helps it stand up. Oh yeah, no, they are capitalizing it as real titles. There's a lot of hyphenated first class. Yeah. Yeah, I'll leave it. Wow. Yeah, I guess it's a registered trademark. That's a registered trademark of the post office now. I guess that's a private company and they're registered trademarking. Oh, I hope I can actually write that without the little registered R in a circle. One of them should not have been marked first class mail. All right. All right. Okay, the lunchroom was shaken by the sudden fluctuation in the exchange rate. Apples. Yeah, maybe of exchange rate of is better. All shaken. The lunchroom fluctuation in the rate between. In, I don't know. Exchange. Yeah, both. Treasure. Yeah, so it's two, but that just sounds wrong. The exchange rate of apples potato chips. Is there something funnier? Maybe chocolate pudding? All right. The lunchroom was shaken by the sudden fluctuation in the exchange rate of apples to chocolate. All right. And there are no apples or chocolate pudding in this cartoon. All right. Well, that'll work. All right. So those are our two pieces for. I keep calling them pieces. This is the two cartoons for this week. My art, my pieces, my expression. Oh, so here's the two. First one is the lunchroom was shaken by the sudden fluctuation in the exchange rate of apples to chocolate pudding. Much funnier. One of them should not have been marked first class mail. So that's another one. I think that's got a little bit more of that bounce. Look at the picture, look at the text, look back at the picture. That's the joke. The little funky guy, little crushed up box guy. Um, yeah, so hopefully that works well. I think I want that. Yeah, a little line across there. Here, maybe here, and then I can do this. Well, yeah, I think that works a little better. Oh, okay. Okay. All right, one of them should not have been marked first class, and lunchroom is shaken by apples to chocolate pudding. Okay, yeah, sorry, and the second one was one of them should not have been marked first class. So that's it. That's this week. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate everybody watching and or listening to this. I hope it's interesting enough to listen to. I need to talk consistently because I think there's a little too much silence, but hopefully we'll get to the point where listening is entertaining in and of itself. Yeah, that's an interesting thought to think about. I'm talking enough, and if the sound quality is good enough, I can just like strip this out into the audio and just a podcast that you can. Yeah, maybe I'll try that. I'll see which of my I don't know, maybe listening there's too much stammering and too much background noise. Yeah, I'll have to see. I'll listen to this with headphones and maybe that'll answer that question. Thanks again for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't, and also, if you really enjoy this and have liked reading the cartoon in the past, please consider supporting us on Patreon. I really would love to have this cartoon become a daily, and that gives you an opportunity to get a printed book, original art, something for helping us out. And I really, appreciate me. I don't know why I'm saying us. I guess it's the royal we supporting me doing this cartoon. I'm the cartoonist. You've seen me do this completely from scratch, so the only party responsible. So yeah, please consider supporting this, patreon.com/abusecartoons. And yeah, like the stream if you've enjoyed listening to this on either Twitch or YouTube. And of course, I'll archive this on the YouTube channel, and this will also exist as a backed up highlight on Twitch. So thanks again, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.